pretty simple assignment today. Yesterday was adding and subtracting one step. Today, multiply and divide one step equations. So again, they're just one step equations, it's just they're to multiply and divide. Properties of equality. All these are is what this means is whatever you do to one side of an equation, what do you have to do? Yep. You have to do the same to the other side. Okay, ratio of A to B. I don't really know why they put this in here, but everyone remember what ratios are? They're just fractions. Ratios can be written three different ways. They can use the word 2, so like 5 to 2, or it can be written as a fraction, or it can be written with a colon. Now we're not writing ratios in here, but we do got a couple problems of similar triangles. I think it's the last two problems in your assignment. And all this is I'll just do a simple one. Okay, if you've got two similar triangles, you can write a proportion to figure out a missing side. If you know 3 of the sides, you can find the 4th. We did a lot of this, or a decent amount last year. So it doesn't matter which number you start with. I always start with the letter. X corresponds to 4. So that's the ratio. X is a ratio to 4. You set that equal to, now since I went this one to this one, you have to do the same pattern, 6 to 3. You guys remember how to set those up? Now once you have the proportion, everyone remember how to solve them? Cross multiply and then divide. So that'd be 24 divided by 3 is 8. Okay? Like I said, there's two problems like that. I think it's the last two on your assignment. And they're not any harder than that. Okay, so again, the rest of the assignment is just solving one-step equations. Get the letter by itself. It's times, so you do the opposite, you divide. And you divide. Now the difference in algebra is a lot of times you get fractions or decimals. Negative 3 over 8, you would get negative 0.375, which you can put as a decimal, but you can just leave it like that. Okay, you don't need to divide it out. If it's an odd fraction like that, just leave it as a fraction. It's okay if you do divide it out, but you don't have to. The one that I see a lot of people get wrong is this. And it's just from going, it's when they're mixed together mostly. A lot of times people see this, the minus 3, and they'll add 3. And they'll say x is 10. Everyone see what the error is there? What do you got to do? You got to divide by, if you plug this in, negative 3 times 10 is not equal to 7. So remember when it's up against, you got to divide by negative 3. And again, this is one of those fractions, you could just leave it as negative 7/3. You wouldn't have to divide it out. So, if it's x divided by a number, you do the opposite, you multiply by that number. Because then they cancel. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. And that's it. Now sometimes we have fractions. So there's two ways to do this. Since it's negative 3/4 times m, you could divide by negative 3/4. But, and you'd get the right answer. Do you remember the easiest way to get rid of when it's a fraction times a letter? Multiply by the reciprocal. Take it times negative 4/3, because then the 4's cancel, the 3's cancel, and the negatives cancel. So again, it's just top times top divided by the bottom. But this one you can see easily, we could cross cancel. 3 goes in there and in there 5, so it would be negative 20. properties of equality. Remember what I wrote at the beginning? What are the properties of equality?
When you do the other.
Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. So when they say the addition property of equality, that just means if you've got an equation like this, what would I have to do to solve for x?
Plus.
Add 7. That's the addition postulate. Whatever you add to one side, you do to the other. The subtraction property is if you subtract from one side, you got to subtract from the other. The multiplication is if you multiply by one side, you got to multiply by the other, and so on. Okay? So that's all that these properties are. So, again, these are simple, I think, right? I don't need to go through those. This one, to get the n by itself, I would just take it times 2, times 2, and the 2's would just cancel, leaving you with -5 equals n. Now this is actually, the way it's written, is a proportion. So you could solve it like a proportion too. You could cross multiply and divide. They don't always set up like that, but this one particularly does. If it's a fraction times the variable, just take it times the reciprocal, -9/2. The 9's cancel, the 2's cancel, the negatives cancel. So again, you could use the calculator, just take 18 times -9 divided by 2. But I could cross cancel, so that'd be -81. Here, to get the a by itself, get rid of the 2/5, and it's times, so take it times the reciprocal, 5/2. So take this times 5/2. Nothing, well, I guess this will cross cancel. 5 and 35 goes in there 7 times. So top times top is 3, bottom times bottom is 14. You can just leave it like that. You don't need to divide them out because you'd get a long decimal. All right, easy enough.